Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. It's so interesting. I think Carlos brought this up yesterday, but it just goes to this, like, both sides do it kind of media coverage that drives, I know, you and me and all of us crazy. But it was a story about them sitting on this film about the family separation policy, even at MSNBC, till after the first of all, they're the only outlet that would make it, right? And I was just saying, I speak from experience because Chris, how many years? 13 years we've been selling out theaters around the country, amazingly successful pay-per-views, and everyone's. It's like, why can't you get a series or a special on a streaming service? I'm reading Vanity Fair. None of the big streamers. This is about the child separation movie, which have zero appetite for political projects, would bite after unsuccessfully finding a buyer. NBC approached MSNBC Films in the 11th hour. They agreed to acquire it. Even they won't air it before the election. Vanity Fair last week, Dave Sherman detailed his fight to find a distributor for The Apprentice, the film that he wrote, which casts a critical eye on Trump. Sherman wrote he found the process of finding a distributor willing to release the film before the November election to be deeply dispiriting. He said Hollywood fashions itself as a community of truth tellers, but here they are running from a movie to prepare for a Trump presidency. Indeed, business leaders across all industries in the country are walking on eggshells as they prepare for what a potential Trump presidency could bring. No one wants to find themselves the target of a vindictive Trump, especially those who have business before the government. But news organizations, which are supposed to hold power to account, should not fall victim to that frame of mind. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. I mean, isn't that a perfect vicious circle? They're too scared of a Trump presidency, so they might help cause a Trump presidency by not airing anything critical of him, right?
Yeah, and if there's anything we know about Trump is that he won't care what they do. He'll go after them anyways. So, this is one of those things where doing the right thing is the right thing to do.
Right. And the right thing to do is go to sexyliberal.com and buy the Chicago pay-per-view and say,
That's right.
F you! Stupid Hollywood, stupid. Okay. So, Carl, the other thing I was saying is both sides don't do it. This is not the first time they've politicized disasters. They do it their party does it all the time. Ours doesn't, right? We were hearkening back to Chris Christie getting in trouble for even being photographed with Obama helping during Hurricane Sandy, right? But Republicans routinely vote against aid for blue states, but want aid for their states, for their red states. I mean,
well, and Trump, when he was president, he made it clear that if you didn't, grovel at his feet and kiss his ring, then he wasn't going to be, FEMA would not be there for you.
Yeah, are you kidding? California, Puerto Rico, ask anybody in a blue state what a Trump first presidency was like. But as we already heard this audio, it was so sad. This guy whose father-in-law will not take FEMA aid because he heard they'll seize your house. It's just so heartbreaking.
The fact that people, this shows the logical, one of the logical through points on this crazy nonsense conspiracy theory garbage that is so infested. I would say the right, but I'd just say Republicans, because it's a large portion of them, and it's having real world consequences. That guy has a family. That guy has people looking at this and wondering why won't they just get the help that they're entitled to. And what's truly nuts about it is that it shouldn't take having your chosen candidate as president for you to be willing to take the help that's being readily available to you. Because here's the secret: nothing changes really, right? So unemployment numbers, the way they're calculated, don't really change from president to president. But if Trump becomes president again, he'll take credit for continued low unemployment. And same thing, inflation going down, he'll take credit for that, even though it's calculated the same way that it's showing inflation going down now.
Yeah.
And so, meanwhile, the lemmings that follow him will assume that he's done something different and nothing has changed.
Yeah, right up through Ron DeSantis not taking the president or vice president's call during a natural disaster. And, it breaks my heart, people that maybe don't evacuate because they don't trust the government because, I don't know, vaccine, COVID. Remember? I don't trust, experts. I don't, meteorologists. They're used to, they watched a man take a Sharpie to change where he said a hurricane was going to hit. And they only believe him. right?
They have been so brainwashed into thinking climate change isn't real
Right.
that they believe Democrats have machines that can control the weather against them.
Right.
I mean, that is absolute lunacy. To think that something that's happening in nature because of what we do as a planet isn't possible, but Democrats have the ability to strategically use some kind of a machine to control the weather, and not do a very good job at it, by the way.
Yeah.
Like if Democrats had a machine to control the weather, you think, and they were brazen enough and horrible enough to do it, which is what all these people think, things would be much, much worse, I'm sure.
I said yesterday we have super aim because Asheville's like the most liberal city in the South, but okay. So, by the way, I just, birds of a feather, as they say, Elon Musk received criticism this week after it was discovered that his offer of free Starlink internet to victims of Hurricane Helene requires a hardware payment of $400 and automatically signs up claimants to a $120 a month plan. Oh my God, they're all grifters, right? He said.
Are you saying that? Are you saying that he's not being honest with people? I mean, this is a guy who just days ago tweeted about, and I'll say tweeted about how you really can't get any help from the government. This is in the middle of a hurricane. You really can't get any help from the government because then you're beholden to it. Meanwhile, he takes billions of dollars in tax subsidies from the government.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, but by the way, you can't use it if you don't have electricity, and nobody has electricity for however many days, right? Anyway, it's just and this part, I guess sociopath to me is too soft a word, but he and Tucker Carlson, they're laughing about when he tweeted about, no one's trying to kill Biden and Harris. Like, first of all, they're missing a humor gene because they're missing a human gene. They're missing empathy. But, just listen to this.
I've been trashing Kamala nonstop.
Oh, I know.
Well, the Kamala puppet, I call it, the machine that the Kamala puppet represents.
Yeah, she's irrelevant. I mean, she's not even.
No. I made a joke which I realized I deleted. Which is like nobody's even bothering to try to kill Kamala because it's pointless. What do you achieve? Nothing.
No, it's totally
just find
right.
another puppet.
Exactly. That's
It's no point in killing.
it's deep and true, though.
Nobody's trying to kill Joe Biden.
It's
It would be pointless.
Totally.
I mean,
First of all, I hope they got a knock on the door from Secret Service, but it's just, Carl, am I missing something? How is that funny? I mean,
Well, it's not.
and how is it not
It's
just
frightening,
mean?
Well, it's worse than mean. It's dangerous. And, but it's also not surprising in the slightest. The idea that there are not people who are, actively plotting or whatever to go after any of our leaders. There are people like that in this country. And we need to support public officials and keep them safe, all of them, regardless of party. And it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. This is what happens when a far-right person who wants to be a comedian is not successful in that route and thinks that this is what passes for being funny.
You know what occurs to me, Carl, in your role on the school board, I'm sure you have anti-bullying initiatives. Like this country needs an anti-bullying initiative against, Donald Trump and his pals. I just listened one more because they went on.
Did you actually put that up?
Yeah. Now, some people interpreted it as though I was calling for people to assassinate her. But I was like, no, even I was like, doesn't it seem strange that no one's even bothered to try?
It's not worth it.
I mean,
there's an endless supply.
Yeah, like nobody would. It's absurd.
It could be anybody.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna try to. Nobody tries to assassinate a puppet.
Of course not. A marionette.
Yeah, marionette. It's just like.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
they're awful.
I said it mockingly, and he just said it. Yeah, it's hilarious. Okay, wow. So, people, I guess, some people are going to vote for that, Carl. I don't know what to say. It's, I thought her...
Gleefully so, some people will.
Right.
Meanwhile, I thought Kamala Harris is, and by the way, stop intentionally mispronouncing her name like you're friggin' 8 years old. Kamala. Anyway, I thought her strategy is brilliant the last few days, in terms of the appearances she's made. And I think it goes to show how she's right about, her strategy, and not all these stupid naysayers saying she's not doing enough interviews or the right kind or this or that, right?
Well, she's certainly getting much more probing and interesting questions than she would in another path where she'd just get gotcha questions that are designed to drive 15 minutes of coverage on cable news. We're actually hearing a little bit more substance on policy and personality and other things than, some kind of a gotcha designed to inflame Republicans and get a back and forth between the candidates.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. It's just, I was saying, it's not only that they're gotcha questions, but they just have no relevance to anybody's life, right? Like, did you misspeak about what part of China you were in 40 years ago? Or did you, Trump says you're not black. What do you think about that? And meanwhile, here she is talking about stuff that resonates with an awful lot of us, like Medicare covering home care for your elderly parents, which, would have meant a lot to a lot of us, and will mean a lot to a lot more people. But, real, like you say, real issues.
Well, and, more than that, I mean, she's talking about, so inflation is coming down. And the way that she talks about inflation with the American people is by talking about what she's going to do to bring prices down for them, to go after, price gouging on groceries and healthcare and credit card fees and housing and everything else. That's the way that you connect with these swing voters who are wondering why they're not feeling any different with inflation coming down and unemployment being lower, because they already had a job, right? And so she's got a plan for them. And what does Trump do? Trump goes out and speaks for 86 minutes about all sorts of things that have nothing to do with them and everything to do with only him.
And then I love she's taking on greedflation, Carl, because that's the reality, is corporations price gouged during COVID and then decided they could keep doing it. And they're on tape, many of them, talking about what they're doing. And,
In fact, every year, these corporations have to do earnings calls. These are all publicly available things that people can listen to.
Right.
And they will talk about, what they can get away with to make more, to make an even bigger profit. And what we know is that, inflation hurts everybody, right? It hurts the corporations, it hurts the employees, it hurts everybody. But what we know is that these corporations didn't just raise prices to account for inflation. They raised it far more than that and have had record profits since the pandemic.
And you know who Trump wants to help? Those corporations. Kamala Harris wants to help you, and I think that's a great point. Carl, you remain a delight, and I'm going to have a hard time not talking about your skit.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.